Ken Belkin, he's a civil rights lawyer and a criminal defense lawyer too. We're also joined by Christine Flowers from Philadelphia. Christine is an attorney and a columnist with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thank you both for being with us. So the president responding to calls that he be impeached today, here's what he had to say.
The word impeach, it's a dirty, filthy, disgusting word, and it had nothing to do with me. There was no high crime and there was no misdemeanor. So how do you impeach based on that? The whole thing is a scam. It's a giant presidential harassment. And honestly, I hope it goes down as one of my greatest achievements because I've exposed corruption.
All right, Christine, putting aside the political aspect for now about whether it's actually a good idea for Democrats to go down this route, whether this is actually smart for them ahead of 2020, putting that aside for now, do you think that there are grounds for impeachment here? I mean, as the president said, there was no crime to allegedly obstruct. Does he have a point?
I think he does, and even though his delivery, Michelle, leaves something to be desired, he does get a little bit histrionic. You can understand his position because there has been a drumbeat since well before the Mueller report was issued, usually from the Democrats, that this is a man who should be impeached. It was putting the cart before the horse. And frankly, I've read the Mueller report. I really don't see where there are significant, strong grounds for impeachment. I don't see where the high crimes and misdemeanors are. I don't see, obviously there was no collusion. I don't understand how you can obstruct an investigation where the president was authorized to take the actions that he took. In fact, executive authority to fire James Comey, executive authority to fire those individuals who worked for him. So, I mean, they may make a case, they may try and make a case. It won't float in the Senate, obviously, but this is a political action. This is not a legal action.
Ken, what do you think?
You know, I think there's a point there. Donald Trump is, the argument is maybe he committed obstruction of justice. Okay, what is that obstruction of justice? The firing of Comey, who was the head of the FBI? Well, he's the president of the United States. The FBI is part of the Department of Justice, which is an executive branch that serves at the president's discretion. He can fire Comey. Now, in order to prove obstruction of justice, you'd have to prove that he had some corrupt intent in firing Comey, and I don't see any evidence that suggests that.
All right, so you're in agreement on that one. Okay, let's move on to some of the other issues here. Mueller made it very clear that he does not want to testify before Congress. Now, some people, including Rudy Giuliani, say that he doesn't want to do this because he doesn't want Republicans to be given the opportunity to question him about the lack of balance in the investigation, because they want answers to certain things like, why, for example, was the Clinton campaign not looked at in terms of Russian collusion when we know that they did pay for the Christopher Steele dossier, and we know that Steele did cooperate with the Russian intelligence of sorts in gathering that information. They also want to know, for example, why Manafort was charged with unregistering as a lobbying for a foreign government, but Tony Podesta, he wasn't charged on that front. I mean, do you think that's why he's avoiding this Congress?
Look, there's a lot of questions here. The special counsel had a purview, and that was to investigate election interference in the 2016 election that may or may have not been done by Russia. As for collusion, I hate the way that word is bandied around because it is not even a legally significant term. There is no crime known as collusion.
Conspiracy to try and influence the elections. I mean, I know that that's a legal term. But Christine, I mean, do you think that the Republicans, like, of course, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, have a point that they want Mueller to answer for what seems to be a one-sided investigation, at least with regards to dismissing all the other things to look at on the other side?
I really think they do, Michelle, and someone made a very good point. This was a two-pronged investigation, one into Russian collusion, and I'm sorry, can I use the word, Russian hacking, involvement in the election, and obstruction of justice. Question being, at what point did Mueller determine that there was no conspiracy to collude, that there was no actual collusion? At that point, and when he determined that, perhaps then the investigation should have ended. Otherwise, many of the people that were indicted, including Manafort, including Flynn, including the others who had any kind of connection to Russia. This was almost a setup. It seems as if there was a continuation of an investigation into a crime that had not been established. So that might be one of the reasons that the Republicans would actually like to have Mueller in front of the committees under oath.
So, Ken, you were nodding in agreement to at least part of that.
Yeah, I mean, Mueller has a long-standing principle, as when he was head of the FBI, that he doesn't like testifying in front of Congress. He believes it should be done as little as possible, and the FBI should not be used for political purposes. And I have to agree with him. His report is his testimony.
Do you support the Attorney General now looking into the origins of this investigation?
I think, you know, there's some serious questions that are raised, and I think that if an investigation of this breadth that was cost this much, that the whole American public was enraptured by for 2 years, I think we should look into why it was started.
Christine, very quickly, 30 seconds we have left. You agree?
Absolutely. I think Ken's right. I think that we should look into the genesis of a $40 million 2-year investigation, which ended up with no collusion, no conspiracy, and very murky, ambiguous determinations as to obstruction of justice.
All right, I did not expect agreement from both of my lawyers tonight, but there you have it.
It's a rare thing when two lawyers agree on anything.
It is very rare indeed. Thank you so
That's
much,
right.
Christine Flowers, Kenneth.